Following that story says it's really affected her because her own son, she says, is a bully. Talking to Maggie Flint of Vink of Flint, Michigan, as well as Steve Perry. He's CNN's education contributor, also a school principal in Hartford, Connecticut. We're going to try and push this story forward and look for solutions. And we should clarify, Maggie, your son apparently was a bully and then he became bullied. We'll get to that in a second. But tell me what sparked you to write this blog, My Son Was a Playground Bully.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I wrote the piece largely because I think there's a misconception that students who do bullying are the bad kids and kids who get bullied are always the good kids. And the truth of the matter is that it's more of a gray line than that. It's not so black and white. My son, I adopted him. He spent 10 years bouncing around in foster care, and he has very delayed social skills. So on the playground, when he got the ball, nobody else was about to get it. And, you know, he always tried to be first in line and would jostle his way to get there. And it got to a point where other kids were annoyed and done with his kind of unfair behavior on the playground. And then it turned around where when he had been kind of being the playground bully, turned around to where he was the one being bullied instead. And a large part of the reason I wanted to write it is his school had a really good zero tolerance policy for bullying. They had proactive courses on bullying, and I thought they really did a good job. But where they fell short was my son was given appropriate punishments for his aggression and his bullying behavior on the playground. He was suspended and given consequences that I thought were very fair. But the students that would follow him around and taunt him and tease him, they did so very quietly, and they never had any consequences for their behavior. So I think we're making good strides in schools by having the zero tolerance policies, but we need to also make sure that we're looking at all sides of the coin and that all kids involved in the situation are given appropriate consequences for their behavior.
Interesting. So Steve, I know you don't believe in zero tolerance, and I want to get to that in a minute. But when you hear, Steve, when you hear Maggie's story and the story about her son, tell me what your thoughts are as someone who, runs a school.
Ms. Vink is very courageous to put her story out there, because when a parent approaches me, they don't often come as level-headed as she is. They feel like their child has been maligned and they want some sort of recourse. They want something to happen. But I'm the principal of both children, not that the child who's being bullied, but the child who is the bully, and my expectation is to take care of both of them. When I hear her story, I hear the story of many families. But what I don't often hear is the truth behind the bullying. The reason why children bully is because of low self-esteem. They don't often have the sense of self that's necessary to be able to cooperate and communicate with other children, so they tend to bring the children down. It doesn't stop them when we're with children. It continues on to adults.
Heck, I was just going to say, we do that as adults, Steve. It's really sad to admit that, but...
It is true. We work together. So I know that we don't realize that the children are dealing with low self-esteem and they don't have a lot of coping skills. And that's where the problem lies. We need to focus on some of the coping skills. Another part that's very, very important is we often blame parents for too much. We are the professionals here. We're the ones who have the responsibility to and the training to work with children. Parents are people who've had children. They've not been trained to raise children, and we need to make sure that there's a distinction. I'm a principal, but I'm also a parent, and so before I had this conversation, I had a conversation with my children's principal who are younger than the groups that I usually work with. So we all need help in raising our children.
And Maggie, you were very proactive. I mean, how did you know that you needed to act quickly on this and you needed to talk with your son and you needed to do something? What was it that clicked, and what was your first plan of action?
Well, I think definitely schools have a responsibility to our kids, but it all starts at home. It's up to parents to teach kids how to deal with conflict. And I always try to teach my son that he can't control what other people do, but he can control his reactions. So I took a lot of steps by, having kids over for one-on-one playtime where I could observe it. I enrolled him in friendship skills and bullying class at his therapy clinic. I spoke to his teachers and his principal and did all the steps I could to try to help him learn better skills. And also sports have been great for him, for learning to interact with kids and to be fair and to, behave appropriately with other kids.
Well,
so it's definitely something we worked on. He's improved by leaps and bounds, and we're still working on it.
Right. And yeah, I think it's always a work in progress. Oh, Maggie, you're such an awesome mom.
Yes.
So, Steve, let me ask you, you're not for a zero tolerance policy. Tell me why, and explain this feeling you have about kid justice.
Well, zero tolerance is just what it sounds like, and very often people don't know what bullying really is. Bullying is not doing something mean to another child. It's continued, consistent, deliberate behavior. That's bullying. Other things may be bad behavior. And zero tolerance often looks at something as if it's all the same. An instance yesterday at school where a child did something to another child. They're probably home watching this because they've been suspended. But a child did something to another child, and one of them was just a better fighter than the other. That one, however, happened to be the one who had something done to them. Now, one would look, because of the way, because of the scars, if you count them up at the end of the bout, the one who had the most would seem to be the one who had been put upon, but that wasn't the case. Zero tolerance would mean that the one who's most harmed, if anything happened, then I'm supposed to take the most severe actions. And it's not often the case. Sometimes kid justice is just that. I can tell a kid over and over again, you better shut your mouth before somebody punches you in it, and then one day somebody punches them in it. Unfortunately, though, children go too far.
Yeah, they do. And unfortunately, we saw that with Phoebe Prince. It's just heart-wrenching. So, Maggie, I thought this was really terrific. You have this wonderful relationship with your son as you've been dealing with all of this. And you actually went to him, he's 10, and you asked for his permission to come on the air and talk to me and talk about how he was a bully and how he was bullied. And I know that you didn't want him to come on the air, which I totally understand. Tell me what he said to you. Why did you seek his permission, and why did he say yes?
Well, he's 12 and a half now, actually.
How old is he now?
I think it was important for me to ask his permission because the story is about him. This is his story, and it's only respectful for me to talk to my son and see if he's willing to share this so publicly. He read my article that I posted on momlogic.com. He read that article before I ran it, and he gave me his thumbs up. And he thinks it's important to tell people this story, too, because he knows he's done things wrong, and he's working on that, and he's trying so hard. But he also knows that people have done things wrong to him, and it hurts. And it really wrecked his self-esteem, which was pretty bad to begin with after his early background. So I think he thinks it's important to get this out there because he doesn't want other kids to be hurt the way he has been.
Oh, that's amazing. I think a lot of us sometimes forget, about those things that happened to us when we were kids and how it does carry over, and it's so important to get involved early on. I don't know, but Maggie and Steve, I think you guys should link up. Steve, Maggie would be a fabulous counselor at your school.
Forget counselor. I want her to send our kids our way. I mean, this is a woman who's done a phenomenal job of raising children.
Give me a call.
And it is important, though, it is important as we part to say that we have to realize that the impact that children have on children throughout the rest of their life can never be overestimated. Many of us as adults are still dealing with an insult that we heard sometimes in the 4th or 5th grade, and we're still trying to outlive that.
So true.
I won't tell you mine.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll talk about our issues later. I got one, too. Maggie probably has one, too. We'll all vent. All right, Maggie Vink. Check out Maggie's blog. It's fantastic. MomLogic.com. Great insight. Communicate with her. Steve Perry, as always. It's great to have you as one of our own. And, of course, you run a fantastic charter school. Thanks to both of you.